Good morning. I think so, in large part because Janet Yellen is respected in China by her interlocutors. She's a serious academic. They like that. She's not just a Wall Street high-flying political appointee. I think they respect her gravitas, if you like. And she's not a yeller. She's quite serious. And I think that they achieve something by agreeing to continue to talk. There are going to be more talks in Washington in 2 weeks, as I understand it. And I did speak to someone who's close to the talks, who spoke to one of the Chinese officials. And the Chinese say that they felt that Janet Yellen was genuine. So that's a fairly big step forward, even though these are very difficult talks, as your correspondent said. The United States is saying, we don't want you to flood our markets and other markets with your cheap EVs, batteries, and other advanced goods.
Yeah, and I was wondering then, Jane, how self-serving this trip could ultimately be seen, by whether it be Chinese authorities or others as well, with regards to it really speaking about how the U.S. could benefit from a relationship in which China doesn't flood the market. Is that a sentiment that could be played out here?
Well, I think the genuine sentiment is that Biden and Xi Jinping met in San Francisco in November, and they set a floor under the relationship. And now Biden and Xi spoke by phone just last week. Now Janet Yellen is in China and just about to wrap up her trip. And then Secretary of State Blinken is going in very shortly. So they're continuing to talk, which is a big step forward compared to what it was like during COVID and just after COVID. That's really important. And as your correspondent mentioned, though, China has its own grievances, which is they feel that they are producing very top-line, valuable products now. It's not like the old days when they were flooding markets with cheap products. They're now got more robots than any other country in the world, for example. Their EVs are proving to be very popular at a good price. So I think it's more jaw than war.
Jane, one of the economic concerns is that the policies we're seeing out of China are more supply-oriented. They're targeted to flooding the market with supply, not tackling the demand side. And we know out of the Chinese market that the ongoing issues with the real estate sector just emanating across to the consumer side are impacting demand there as well. Is there any way that China could counteract some of the concerns by stimulating demand-side economics as well?
Well, that's getting that's not actually quite clear to me. I think what is very clear to me and others is that this is an election year in the United States, and very notably, Janet Yellen went to a solar plant in the state of Georgia just before she went to China. And this was a solar plant that had been put out of action by cheap products earlier, and she made it very clear that the United States did not want that to happen again.
Jane, you can see the links here, can't you? What 2 million jobs were lost out of the US roughly back in the early 2000s. This time around, it's going to adjust very strong data on the employment front out of the United States, that if a lot of those jobs were upended, the situation would be somewhat dire down the track for the United States with the amount of jobs required at this point.
Yes, yes, of course. But also the United States has got quite low unemployment. What the unemployment figures came out the other day, 3.5%. That's quite extraordinary. It's been like that for a while. So I think the Chinese are going to keep I think they're going to stand tough. She had a very tough message, of course. But I don't see the Chinese bending to American demands on this. Do you?
Jane,